On this week's episode, we're discussing the perks of being a passenger princess.
AKA the perks of not driving. We all know the perks of driving, but what about not driving?
So stick around.
Hello and welcome to Rare with Flair.
The podcast where two best friends with the same rare disease are living our best lives. I'm your host, Casey.
And I'm your host, Cassandra.
You guys, we are packing and getting ready to leave for the HPS conference. And actually, by the time you hear this, that's what you were going to say. Oh my gosh, it's like we're connected.
I'm so excited to be reunited with Bestie and to meet the Grantford, who I'm the only person who ever calls him that.
That is not his given name.
His name is just Grant.
I wish it were.
That'd be awesome.
It would be kind of cool. Be kind of cool if it was Grantford.
Well, because Casey's little nickname for him, her little pet name is what, Grantikins?
Yes.
But
yes.
I can't call him that. He's not my Grantikins. Like, that just feels weird, okay? So I was like, I need a nickname for him, but that doesn't feel like a pet name because he's my friend-in-law, I guess.
Friend-in-law. My mom came up with Grantinator was her name for him. So I think everyone's just grasping at straws, trying to come up with names for him. I don't know if that one stuck, but that was an early name she had for him.
That's funny. You got to try what you can. But I call him Grantford, not even to his face, because I have not seen his face in person yet.
She's never met him. And my mom is coming and she's never met Anaheim. And so there's many meetings happening at this conference that are very important.
Very important.
And we are so excited.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be so exciting. And by the time you're hearing this, we just got back. So I hope we had a good time. I can't say like pray we have a good time because we're already back when you're hearing this. And we will be doing our next episode will be all about it. So
it's going to be
we hope you tune in for that. Yes.
Anything else going on besides the excitement of conference?
No, I feel like my whole brain is conference mode. So there's just like not that much in my brain right now. But what about you?
I'm trying to think. Oh, did you have a nice Easter?
I did have a nice Easter. I went to my grandma's house. We had a huge Thanksgiving type lunch. It was like, I say that because we had 1,000 different things in the meal, very Thanksgiving like. And then we were sitting there and my grandma was like, let's all go around and say what we're thankful for. And I was like, is this Thanksgiving?
That's
and
adorable.
Grant was like, you can be grateful anytime, dear. And I was like, yes, that's right. So we went around, said what we were thankful for. It was sweet. It was good. My nephews did Easter egg hunting.
That's so cute.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Was your Easter good?
It was good. It was super chill. I went to church and then my parents came up and hung out and we did very little of consequence. We got a pizza and it was from a local place that I couldn't believe they were open. But so many places, I was actually more than that. I was shocked at how many places actually closed for Easter. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know that it was such a widely celebrated holiday.
Yeah.
But it was wild. So we walked in and the guy was like, I'm not going to say the name of the establishment so I don't dox myself. But he was like, Easter dinner from Phil and Pizza place name. And it was so funny.
Oh, it's fun to be chill on Easter, though. It's a good holiday
awesome.
for that. Just go to church, have a chill day. Like it doesn't involve all the craziness of some holidays like Christmas. So it's a good little spring moment.
And it really feels, I mean, it changes every year, right? The date, but it really does feel like the ushering of spring, despite having the official like first day of spring back in March. But hey,
absolutely,
here
we are. Guys, there's a lot of benefits to driving. I think we all know that.
I think we all know what they are.
I think we all know what they are, and I think a lot of parents of young kids with albinism or vision impairments I come across all the time, their like main concern is what if my child can't drive? It's a huge concern for a lot of people because they think about all the perks of driving, and there are many, and that's not what we're here to discuss.
It's not. And, it really depends where you live, right? Case and I both live in really car-dependent places. We do have some other options. There are some car-dependent places that don't even have, like, ride shares, like Uber and Lyft.
Right.
Which is...
Right.
way, 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 way harder, especially if you don't live near people you know. And there are places that do have really impressive mass transit systems. You lived in New York for a couple of years and you got to benefit from that. I even lived in Seattle for a summer, and it was definitely better than where I live in Columbus, Ohio. But it can be hard depending on where you are. However, there are perks.
There are perks. And we've made episodes about driving and why we don't drive and all of that in the past. So we're not going to go over in this episode like how we get around, or because we've gone over that. There are many episodes you can go back and listen to, but we discovered we have not done this episode yet. Like, I was like, Cass, have we done, we're getting to the point where we have so many episodes. I'm like, have we done this before? We have not. We have not talked about just the perks of not driving. And we're like, this is a positive spin on a kind of crummy situation at times.
Yeah.
It's a positive spin.
It's funny because I was thinking of this. I was talking to my esthetician, and she has kind of a long commute. And she was like, oh, you know what? That sounds so nice to not have to just drive and focus on sitting in the car and driving for maybe 45 minutes if you have a long commute. I mean, I know people who have even hour-long commutes where they're driving the whole time. That sounds honestly kind of painful to me.
I know. There are people who enjoy driving, and I can't say whether or not I would if I could, but I feel like I wouldn't be one of the people that does. Some people do. I just feel like it wouldn't be for me. I'm a little too anxious for that jazz. I'd be like, But then again, I don't know if I feel anxious about it because I can't see, you know what I mean? Because maybe if I could see, it wouldn't be an anxious experience. But because I can't see, it feels like a very anxious experience. For me, even in the passenger seat, I'm often like, oh, there's a lot going on right now, visually, and just the sun and things. So yeah, like, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I can. I think the first one, it speaks for itself and it also doesn't. So we got to elaborate. But money. So I think so many times that I've been on, this always happens on dates, mostly.
Yeah.
And it happens outside of that too. But for some reason, whenever I'm on, especially like a first date, I get some kind of ride share to my date, and we're talking, and I've already have disclosed my vision before I go on the first date, just because I need them to know that if we're trying to meet up somewhere, I'm not going to be able to see them. We've kind of talked about that before.
Yes.
So then they put the pieces together, and then they're like, sometimes they think about it while you're messaging. Granted, that's how we knew that he was a lovely man. But
yes,
like, they'll be like, but isn't that so expensive to Uber everywhere? And it's always the same question.
Yeah.
And yeah, it can be. It definitely can be. But I think the real crux of this is that people completely forget and take for granted the amount of money that they pay to have a car.
So true. A lot of money. Actually, if you do the math, probably more or similar to Ubering a lot of the time.
Yeah. People forget that, especially insurance payments are a thing. You have to pay for car insurance.
Gotta have car insurance.
You if you have a newer car that you bought, and you're paying it off in installments, you have to pay for that. Gas, which right now in the current climate, because war,
astronomical,
it's insanely expensive. Maintenance is so crazy. My roommate was telling me that she felt she got taken advantage of when she went to Firestone Tires and she had to pay like $800. And like all at once. That's so much money.
Oh, so much maintenance. Like my dad literally just a few weeks ago, he parked at my grandma's house, a tree limb fell on his truck and completely like messed up the whole screen and
Oh
like
my
on the
gosh.
windshield of his truck. He had to do a rental car for like 2 weeks. I mean, these things happen. Whether it's your windshield, your tires, your gas, your engine or whatever is what I'm trying to say. A lot of maintenance issues happen with a car for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Even like parking, depending if you live in a major metropolitan area and you do have a car, you may need to pay for a parking spot. But even then, you may, if you're going to a downtown, you probably have to pay for metered parking. You got to worry about feeding the meter. And oh my gosh, the meter's running out. I got to go run back and throw some more coins in it or go on the app and pay more money. It's like there's so much that when we get dropped off door to door, I don't have to spare a thought.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to I think this conversation we had was one of the things that started us on this topic to have this episode in the first place. But I want to let everyone know, I'm going to be a little vulnerable here for a minute. Not driving has always been for me like a sore spot, especially with something like dating, because I don't want to be a burden on my friends or family, but especially also not on a romantic partner. And it's always been something that I've been insecure about because I don't want them to feel that I'm not independent or that I'm a burden or whatever. And Grantford, Grant, my fiance,
on, guys.
We are about to, combine our finances when we get married. And he was telling me the other day, he was like, when I think about you not driving, the main thing I think about is how much money we're going to save, like how great it is that we're not going to be paying for your car payments, your insurance, your gas, all that stuff. And of course, like I said, we will be paying for Ubers here and there and everything. But just let it be shown that like some people, they do see the benefit and it's not like you're a terrible burden that they don't want to deal with. Like you're actually saving your partner money. Yay.
Yeah. And, not to preach gender roles, right? But we're women dating men, right? And we want men that are somewhat masculine. And so a lot of times men feel really good when they can drive you around, right?
Yes.
But it's hard to feel that way because sometimes when we've asked for rides and people are really busy or something, we've talked about this whole dynamic back in an episode we did about feeling like a burden, mostly about just the actual emotional load that not driving can carry. And the stigma that we often receive for it. But it's so funny, going back to being on dates, there have been some dates where I have actually told men the figure that I spent on transportation last year,
just to
right?
prove to them. Yeah.
And just to show them, and they're like, oh, well, that's actually not that bad. I once told a guy at a bank when I was looking for a new credit card, and he was like, oh, car stuff and whatever. And I was like, I spent X amount last year. And he was like, maybe I should start Ubering, please.
Really though, and we've talked about this, sometimes fully able-bodied couples who both of them have a license only have one car for financial reasons. And so like a couple only having one car, it's not unheard of. It's not unheard of. And, Cass and I were joking before this episode, and I joked about it in the little intro. Being a passenger princess is like kind of a funny meme now that people throw around online all the time of like, and this is fully able-bodied, usually women, who can drive. And they say, I want to be a passenger princess. I just want to sit and let my guy drive me. And kind of even going against the gender thing, I do know plenty of men who can't drive who, are in relationships or whatever. So we're not saying like you can't, if you can't drive your lady around,
Then
but
there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you, but
nothing wrong with that. But being a passenger princess, everybody enjoys that. Yeah. Everybody wants that.
Yeah.
That is the goal. You can relax.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we want to move on from that, the next thing is finding parking. Parking is stressful. Like, especially if you're going somewhere like you were saying, like downtown, if you're parking in a really busy area. There are plenty of times where I've gone, I want to say like things like pumpkin picking at like a farm and like
yeah.
things like that, or like a festival
Oh my
or
gosh.
a concert venue. Oh, God forbid a concert venue.
Nightmare.
Those places, having to park and then having to find your car after, and then having to wait forever to get out of the parking lot, having
Yeah.
to walk a really long way from your car to your car. Parking,
In the dark,
I've
potentially.
seen, yes, I've seen stressful times come out of parking, and I'm just kind of sitting there because it's not really stressful for me. But
Yeah, I'm like, I
it's
can't,
stressful for
I
the
can't be
person in
of
the car.
any use here, but that
Like
sucks.
recently, Grant and I had a reservation at a restaurant, and our reservation, let's say it was for like 7. And we drove around. There was no parking anywhere near it, and we had to drive around for like 20 minutes. We were really late to our reservation, and like that could be a very stressful time, for people. And getting your car towed if you park in the wrong. Then we were scared about parking in the wrong spot. You're gonna get your car towed or your car
Oh my
booted.
gosh, yeah, a big ticket. I remember
Get
once
a ticket, yeah.
it was right before I got Romana, so this is quite a while ago, but my mom and I were driving around downtown in Columbus, and we decided to go to a cafe, and she parked in a place that we definitely thought we could park, and then we come back to the car and like, $50 ticket. Like,
Ugh.
it's just it's just so much. We're never gonna get pulled over by the cops because of anything
Nope.
that happened when we were driving, or we're never going to get ticketed for
Yep.
parking illegally or double parking or parking by a hydrant. There's so many ways that you could get ticketed, which goes back to the money of it all.
Yep.
And then that affects your insurance. And there's just so
Yes.
much math that we don't have to think about, which is really, really
It's so
nice.
So true. And just all the things that come with parking, like someone parking too close to you and then you're afraid to back out, or like
Right.
this parking space is too tight for your car and you got to find another one.
This is
it's just
compact
like-
only. I thought that I could fit there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Can we even park here? Is this, so
I lived
we
in an
love not having to deal
apartment with
that.
street parking only, and so every time my parents would come up to visit, it was like, we'll park at the church across the street, I guess.
Oh, gosh.
Hopefully they don't
Yeah.
tow our car.
Yeah, and although Uber and Lyft have their downsides, and that's not what we're here to discuss today, at least when they do work out, you're getting door-to-door service. You don't have to park and walk. Like, you're literally dropped off at the door. If
Yeah.
it's raining, you're dropped off at the door.
It's so funny because when I go to Bible study, the vast majority of the time I get a ride share. So I get picked up and I get dropped off right at the front door. When I have gone, I went once with my roommate, or sometimes if my mom is in town and she can't go to hers, she can go to mine. There have been once in a blue moon where like we have to actually park, and I'm like, oh, we're so far away. And I love walking, but I'm like, wow, it's like dark out.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't mind. Like, I like walking as well, but yeah, when it's raining or when it's just like an unsafe at night or whatever, it's kind of great to just walk right in the door and know where you are, especially visually. It's nice to kind of just know where you are and in the surroundings.
I have a
in your
coworker
surroundings.
whom I love dearly who is terrified to park at any other spot but the one that she parks in. So she will get to work absurdly early. She's also a super morning person, but she'll get to work just so that she can park in that same spot.
Yeah. Yeah. I've known people like that too.
Yeah. It's wild. Oh my gosh. When you're actually inside the car, you don't have to do a dang thing. Like, I'm sitting in the back seat of an Uber and I'm on my phone planning my schedule. I'm watching TV. I'm reading a book. And you know
Putting
what?
on makeup.
I'm fully doing my makeup on the way to work in the morning.
Definitely. Yes.
Completely.
Yes.
I can do almost every step of my face routine in the car on the way to work.
Yep. Yep. You can read read a book, do
I
whatever.
can't eat unless the Uber driver's
Yeah.
really strict and they get mad.
Yeah.
We've had
Do
that
whatever
happen, but
your heart desires, babe, in the car. We can just put our feet up and live.
it's
and we
pretty
love that.
lovely. That's
No
the thing that my
responsibility.
esthetician was saying. She's like, well, gee, I wish I could just sit around in my car.
Oh man, this next one does not really apply to me, but it's a pretty big one for a lot of people. You never have to be the designated driver. So you can go you can go drink. You can be under the influence and not have to worry about being responsible in that state, which you absolutely should be. If you're getting behind a wheel, you should not get behind the wheel if you're under the influence of alcohol. But even if you're like, okay, so here's the thing, I don't really drink. But even if you're not drinking, I still like not having to be the designated driver. Like, it's still nice because I have an out always. Even if I'm not drinking, I don't have to be the one to cart around a bunch of my drunk friends or whatever, in the car. So that's kind of nice.
It's just annoying. And yeah, I love making that joke whenever I've gone out with friends. I'm like, well, I'm not driving, so. But, even if I have like one singular beverage, I'm like, oh, darn,
oh, darn. It's true,
convenient.
Though. You can always be responsible.
One thing that we both have benefited from is having extra room in you have a garage, right?
I do, yeah.
You have a garage, and then I have 2 parking spots in my condo. And it's really nice. I have one now that I have a roommate. But I have one entire spot that whenever a friend comes over or my parents come to visit or something, I had a friend over, a mutual friend of my roommate and I's, and we were watching a movie and she could just park behind my house. She didn't have to find visitor parking somewhere else. It was super convenient. I feel like I can give people who come to visit the VIP treatment.
Yes, it's very convenient for me. So I have like a 1-car garage. It only fits 1 car. I don't have to have a car in it. And so another thing with this is if you do have a garage without a car, I don't really store much in my garage, but if you wanted to, you totally could like do something with your garage instead of making it a space for a car. Gym. You could turn it into, that's so true. You could turn it into a gym. You could turn it into a man cave, put a TV in there, whatever, a woman cave, she shed, anything, a craft room, whatever. Yeah. You could do that. I don't do that because mine's kind of halfway open. So it is exposed to the elements still. It's kind of confusing, but anyway.
Oh, it's like partially fenced on one side. That was yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So like it's a little more exposed than like a completely closed in garage. But, it's great because when I have my mom over or my friends or Grant, whoever's coming over, I say, you guys can park in the garage. And it's nice. A lot of times my friends actually will still park in the parking lot too, because we have spaces out there. But regardless, like I'm not taking up any of the spaces or room at all. So it is really great for them. And I think that's something that will follow us forever. We will always have a little bit of extra room at whatever house or condo or wherever we live. Mm-hmm. Because usually places have somewhere to park a car and we don't have one of those.
Or even as you're looking for houses to move into when you get married, like you don't necessarily need a 2-car garage.
Right. And even if we did, just extra storage space, I guess. Just bonus. The next one, something we love. Okay. So obviously the person driving can do this too, but I think the passenger is kind of the designated aux control. So we get to pick the playlist, pick the music, pick the vibe. And oftentimes if I'm on like a road trip with a friend, like I will be the designated music person and sometimes the designated maps person too, which is kind of fun to like feel like I'm helping out,
Yeah.
If we're going to a place we don't really know and they don't really want to look at the map because they're driving, I'll kind of help with that. But like really fun to be able to pick the music and not have to worry about looking at it when you're trying to also drive.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice. Or again, you can even help them out if they want something specific. If your driver friend wants something, you can help them find it on Spotify. Or you can just put on whichever Taylor Swift album meets the mood, and
you sure can. You sure can. Then you can bother them the entire time singing along.
A lot.
Because what are friends for?
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. One thing that we didn't mention when you can sit around and do whatever it is you want to do because you're not driving, you can also sleep if you really want to.
You can. We were talking about this a little bit before we started recording. We were saying we kind of feel a little bad about sleeping because, you know, they're doing a lot of work over there and then we're just like sleeping. And I've had drivers tell me before, like, you can sleep. And I'm like, I also want to make sure that you don't fall asleep though.
Especially on a road trip where there might be driving
Yes.
multiple hours in a row. You know, part of the job, and that's kind of fun actually, of the passenger is entertaining the driver so that they don't fall asleep at the wheel. But
So true.
I will give a little asterisk to this one. Be very careful about, like, I would not fall asleep in anywhere that any other car than someone who you know personally is driving.
Gosh. Absolutely.
I
yes.
have had this happen where I was extremely tired once. I was like 20 years old, okay? So I have not done it since. But I did fall asleep in an Uber and I woke up and we were nowhere near where we were supposed to be. And I want to say it's because I put in the address wrong, but that's just a really scary experience and you never know what could happen. So just be on guard when you're not in someone who you trust's car.
Yeah. Yeah. And even under the influence too. Like that's a whole other topic, but just be, you know, have your wits about you when you're in someone else's car.
Yeah.
But yeah, the sleeping thing, it could be nice. Not something we really try to do, just to be nice and considerate of the person driving, because we do respect our driver friends who are letting us come along. We do try to respect it. But sleeping's nice. And you know what, Cass, too, like if you feel bad, like if you have a really bad headache or something, you can just be quiet and you don't even have to sleep. You can like close your eyes and relax while the person is driving. Whereas if you were the driver and you didn't feel good, well, suck it up, you know, because
you got to drive.
Yeah.
Can't close your eyes.
I felt bad on plenty of road trips. I have many times in the car where I felt super sick, you know, and I'm glad for that I could just relax.
Yeah, especially with like my mom in the car, you know, there have been times where I'm thinking of having a headache or it's just like so bright that the light is overwhelming me.
Yes, it's the brightness.
I'm just going to close my eyes, man. Like,
It's that brightness too. This one might apply to you a little more because you're a guide dog user, but not driving allows us to find other ways to get places, which also allows us to walk more and be more active. Yeah. And I really experienced this more when I lived in New York, which we mentioned before, but I know you walked to quite a few things near you and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have a lot of things within walking distance from me, actually. The list keeps growing, and there is an actual list that I maintain on my phone because I want to always be cognizant and grateful of where I live, because it was great when I was looking for this condo over 5 years ago, which is wild that it's been that long. But the longer that I've spent here, the better it has become. Like, I have a bus stop close to me. I live close to a pharmacy. I can get groceries at a grocery store. Again, all within walking distance. My gym is within walking distance from my house.
Yep.
There's a place that fixes glasses that I can go and get my glasses fixed for free. And it's really not far. So, you know, I don't want to, again, list too much so that I don't dox myself. But I just, it's been so nice. I get to really get a lot more exercise. I get so many steps in. I was talking to a friend of mine who she was complaining about just sitting at her desk and at just desk job all day. And she was like, well, you probably get a way more steps in. And it's true. I do, because I often, you know, I get ride shares often to and from work. But if the weather's really nice, especially, or even basically it's not raining and I don't have somewhere I really, really need to be, I'll often take the bus home from work. And it gives me a great walk. Anaheim gets to work. It's really nice. I get to stop by the grocery store or the pharmacy on my way home. And I feel like things like that truly just make me feel so independent. Like being able to take the bus home and pick up a couple groceries. Like, I feel like someone with a car. When I get to chain 2 errands together and I don't have to go do one thing, I'm like, oh my gosh, who is she?
Yes. And like the added bonus of like when you have a guide dog, like you really need to work your dog. Yeah. And walking is healthy for you and healthy for him. And
he loves it.
It's Yes, of course. And it is good. And I think I've seen a lot of things online lately about, and I'm once again completely able-bodied people. This is completely outside of the low vision space. Just regular able-bodied people are saying they really wish there were more walkable cities. And like, what do they call it? There's a word for it, like a 5-minute city or whatever, like where everything is like within
I think that's
5
what it's
minutes
called.
walking or 10 minutes, something like that. And like, and how, you watch TV shows like Gilmore Girls and stuff of these small towns where everyone's like walking around. And of course, not everyone wants a small town where everyone knows each other. Like, we prefer not living in that small of a town, I think. But it is, there's something that people, like humanity, like kind of latches onto when we see things like that, of like, we are longing, we're all so separated in our cars. It's so individualistic. And I think we're all kind of longing for that society of like, being able to walk places and see people on the street. And I wish there were more cities like that, because the only cities you find like that are quite large metropolitan areas. And it would be nicer to have kind of smaller cities, but that's great that you have so many things around you too that are walkable.
It's really nice. And you're hitting on something without saying it directly. And it's the social aspect of maybe running into someone that you know in your neighborhood, or people at least see you around a lot more. I once left the grocery store like in the fall, and this woman stopped me, and I was like, I'm sorry, what? And she said, oh, I feel like I've seen you around a lot. Like, you live on whatever street, right? And I was like, yeah, I do. Mm-hmm. And so, it brings connection where you are.
Yes.
I had a friend who was driving in my neighborhood who like just told me yesterday, like, I forgot to tell you, I was going to text you, but I was driving, but I drove around, where you live, and I saw you out walking, and makes people think of you.
Yeah, I walk my dog, and it's funny because we don't see them, but they see us.
Yeah,
and I'll meet somebody that's like, oh, I see you all the time walking your dog. I'm like, oh gosh.
I know, it makes me nervous. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh, you do?
Okay. Like,
I'm like, he's really cute. At least you can, our dogs are both very good looking boys. So,
but it's the town square of it all, which is why like all those able-bodied people are talking about it, and it's people want places where they can gather instead of just all showing up separately in their cars.
That, and like, it's better for the environment to not have this many cars on the road. If people did bike everywhere and walked everywhere, not only would it be so much better for the environment, but everybody would save money. Like, this is not just a disabled thing. Like, we could all be saving money, saving the planet, all the things, but unfortunately that's just not the society we are in right now.
It's also so healthy because in Europe there's so much transit and lots of walkable things. And of course, people drive in Europe.
Yes.
But you go to European cities and they walk so much more than us in the United States, unless you, again, live in a huge metropolitan hub like New York or Boston or, all that. But it's wild because you see, like, Europeans tend to smoke a lot more than we do in the United States, especially now that there have been a lot more regulations about smoking in the United States. But they're still so healthy looking because they're so fit. They exercise so much.
New Yorkers are often pretty fit too, just because they're walking. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I actually had this reinforced today, but the mental toll of other drivers making erratic decisions that you're unprepared for, and you just have to be a reactive defensive driver, is a lot. I actually got a ride from my roommate home from work because we work pretty close to each other, actually. My work is on her way home, So she picked me up and she was driving, and it was kind of rush hour. She was like, man, people are just so all over the place. And she kind of went off. She wasn't yelling at any of the drivers, but she was just like, oh man, it's just so frustrating. Like, if people just knew where they were going and didn't all of a sudden decide that they were going to turn in a place that they can't turn, like,
yes,
it would be so much safer. And then she paused and she was like, did you ask me about that or did I just start talking? It's like, you definitely started talking, but I appreciate the perspective.
Yeah, yeah, because it is stressful. If you're already having a bad day and then somebody does something silly on the road, it can just really be the final nail in the coffin for, the straw that breaks the camel's back. Like it, and sometimes it's easy for us to be with people and be like, okay, calm down, but we're not in that driver's seat. Like it is a stressful thing. Like you have your life and someone else's life possibly in your hands. And people are really making a lot of crazy mistakes on the road. Crazy mistakes. And even I, who know nothing hardly about driver rules, you can see our episode about we took Too Blind to Take a Driver's Test, okay? We know nothing. But even I know they've messed up a lot of the time when it's that bad, and I can even tell. And I'm like, if I could tell they were really making a mistake there, then I know it was a bad mistake because, like, I don't know all the rules, but I do know enough to know that was not right. That you didn't turn your turn signal on and you just cut in front of us or whatever.
Oh my gosh. Occasionally I'll see one. Like I was in the car with my mom last week and we were on the highway and someone just kept driving in the merge lane. Like they didn't merge. They just continued driving. Like you can't do that. You have to merge. You can't just wait
do that
for
kind
the
of
lane
stuff all
to
the time.
end. Like that's crazy.
No, or they'll slam on their brakes right in front of you for no reason. It's just things like that. It can be really a mental stressor. People honk at you, road rage. People are yelling at you.
Like flipping you off, and they don't. It's so much.
I do feel like it could be like anxiety inducing if you've had a bad day, especially. It's like, wild. Okay, I don't want to deal with this.
There was something back in the fall where not too far away from where I live, there was like a huge amount of traffic on my way home. And I was in a rideshare and there's some train tracks close to me. And I was like, oh, maybe the train is coming through and we're waiting for the train. But we were stopped for a weirdly long time. And so I asked the drivers, like, do you know what's going on? And they were like, yeah, there's just a lot of traffic. I later found out that someone had gotten road rage so bad because of a lot of traffic that they got out of their car with a gun.
Oh, that happens here all the time. Yeah.
Like that's terrifying.
Yeah, there's a lot of road rage shootings.
Dangerous.
Yeah. Terrifying. I think about it all the time when people are yelling because it happens. It's so scary.
Gosh.
So scary. Yeah. And speaking of road rage and guns,
that was an amazing segue.
An amazing segue. The safety of it all. We're never alone in a car.
Until we get Waymo.
Right. We're never alone at a gas station. We're never alone in a parking garage. They're, pumping gas. I've had friends who like at 10 o'clock, they're like, I'm running out of gas. I have to go like right now. And it's like, okay, that's a little maybe unsafe and be safe. But like, I would never have to do that. I'd be with somebody else. Right. And then, we were talking about parking and walking and all of that.
Yeah. And, of course, it's so funny because people forget, again, people get so used to what the devil right? Yeah. And so, especially other women have told me like, oh my gosh, I'd never get in an Uber. Like, you never know what that driver's going to do. And like, yeah, definitely. You have to be careful. You have to be on alert. You don't want to take too many chances, but like, just use your best judgment, right?
Yeah.
But people forget, especially other women who also generally are more aware of these things because we're women. We don't have to Wolverine fingers our keys as we walk to our car in the dark parking lot because we don't know what's going to happen.
Right. Parking lots are there's not a whole lot of people around. They are a good place for people to take advantage. And if you're like at a restaurant late at night with some friends and they had to park way far away because the parking wasn't good, like we said earlier, then they might have to walk a really far way by themselves to their car. And that's scary. Like we would just have someone pick us up at the door. Like, that is actually safer when you think about it, because, I mean, obviously nothing is ever fully safe, whatever you do. But if you're at a restaurant that's like crowded, has a lot of lighting, and the Uber is pulling right up to you, that feels safer to me than having to walk by yourself to some parking lot.
And there's usually witnesses. Like,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and not all the time it's in a parking lot. Like, that's why it can be kind of scary, because there's not always a lot of people. And any woman or man, but mostly if you're a woman, I know any woman listening to this understands that fear of having to walk alone.
Yeah. And, again, there are definitely other trade-offs, right? Like, I've walked when it's a little bit too late, like 10 o'clock, and I don't do that really anymore. But there have been times, especially when I was younger and in my earlier 20s, that I did, or even in college, where you might more often anyway. Definitely there are trade-offs, right? Like, you're often walking for a little longer than it would take you to get to a car. But again, I feel like we're often in the situation, or we're in these situations a lot less often, is what I meant to say. That, like, we're not constantly having to get gas at night or go find our car in the parking lot or garage late at night. There are much more infrequent opportunities for this to happen to us.
Yes, certainly.
The last thing I had on this list, and I wrote it as we were doing this episode. I tacked it on at the end.
Added it on.
Well, so it made me think, when you were talking about your dad and rental cars, when your car is in the shop or getting fixed. And I have to say, and I love y'all with all my heart, drivers are weenies.
Big Weenie Junior.
Weenie Hut Juniors.
Weenie Hut
You guys, okay, especially if you don't have public transport at your disposal and you live in car dependent cities like we do. Man, drivers are the biggest babies when they don't have access to a car, and it is actually so funny to me. And I don't want to laugh at their pain a lot, but you know what? Come on, man. Like, oh no, I don't have a car. Wow, imagine what that's like.
Imagine.
That's
the struggle.
But it does make us so much more resourceful, right?
It does.
We can do the math of how long it's going to take us to get from one place to the other, because we're always backtracking time. I need to schedule my ride at this time so that they can pick me up and I can get to this place at this time. Accounting for all this stuff, like, we're doing like the trigonometry in our heads. We can pivot on a dime, because we're so used to having to be resourceful, and we don't have a car at our disposal, so we can't just relax and be like, well, I'll just drive there, We get to be so creative.
Yes.
And use our brains in ways that y'all could never.
And even, you know what? Here's another one I'm going to kind of add that goes with that. Even if you're not using an Uber or a Lyft or a bus, if you have to reach out and ask a friend for help, sometimes that's a good, like, bonding experience. Like,
car
sometimes,
chats.
Car chats. We've talked about this. If let's say my friend Sarah is going to Bible study and I really need a ride, and I ask her, we have some time to hang out and chat that we would have never had, and maybe that will even make her day brighter. Maybe she would love to have a chat with somebody that she hasn't talked to in a while, and we can bring that joy to them, and we can bring that conversation and like we were saying, of people being so individualistic in this society, like, that's a time to help your fellow man. People love helping other people. Sometimes they get annoyed, but sometimes it makes them feel good if they're a good person. And so they're helping us, we're helping them by, like, having a fun, friendly chat. And I think, like, that's another thing.
It builds connection.
It builds connection, because when you need to ask for help, you are building connection, and then you are there to help them. And that's what society is about, and community should be about, is, like, helping your fellow man. Like, that's what this life is about, right?
Exactly.
And so
if all you're doing is driving alone in your car day in and day out, you also never have to depend on other people, and that's good. Like, that's healthy to depend on other people.
I think so.
Because there will be a time where you can't do something yourself, And you can't have your world crumble in that moment, you know?
Yeah. And I think, being blind has made us resourceful in many ways, not just with this, but like in many, many ways. And I will say, I know some, how you were saying sighted people like can't handle it without their cars. I even know some blind people who maybe like got married young and really relied on their spouse. And then if something happened with the marriage, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And I'm really grateful, Cass, that I was single throughout my whole 20s, and you've had some single times too throughout your 20s, that like we have learned, like I feel, it makes me feel good to have to be resourceful. Like it makes me feel like I can do anything, because if no one is there to drive me around, I'm going to figure out a way and I'm going to get to that place. And like that just feels good, because I wouldn't want to be one of those people that's like, I don't have a car, I don't know what to do. Like, yeah.
It's really empowering. And right, like God forbid your spouse pass away. This happens often when people get married like really young out of the gate. They kind of learned everything together, or one of the spouses took charge of a lot of things. And then later on, when they end up being widows, they often don't know what to do. Like they don't necessarily have the skills, and sort of almost a separate conversation, because, being single for like throughout our 20s, on and off maybe, or just all together, we've gotten to practice those skills that we know that we can do both. We can depend on others and ask for help when we need it. We can also be aware of how we're treating other people and not treating people like someone who's entitled and assuming that people will give us rides. And also cultivating good skills that when we need to have them, they're there.
Yeah. And I don't think getting married young is bad, but I thank God actually that like I had that time in New York, you had that time in Seattle, we've had time living alone at our condos, we've had time trying to figure it out. And yeah, I've been close to family. I'm really grateful for that. Like, we're not saying you can't get any help from anybody, obviously, but just having to kind of figure it out when it is easy to completely just get the answers from someone else without having to figure it out. It's nice, and it does make you feel empowered. And I really urge anyone who's listening to this to try, even if you have a partner or you're living with your parents or whatever, to still try to like have to feel that you could do it if necessary, if no one were around, that you could still make it work. And I really think you could. I think everyone has the power to do that. You just have to be creative.
Yeah. And, say you live in a small town and you don't have access to Uber. I have a blind friend who is getting married, and she's moving to kind of like middle of nowhere, Connecticut. Mm-hmm. Involve yourself in some kind of community that you can basically make a little ride circle for. If you don't get Uber and Lyft in your area, make your own system, right? You can, I think what this blind friend is doing is like a lot of the little old ladies from her church are kind of taking turns being able to give her rides, and she's totally blind, so she, especially would benefit from it. But it's so helpful to have someone that, in your example, right, isn't just your spouse.
Yes.
Or isn't just a family, like one singular family member. You got to have like a roster of people to pull from, where if one's not available, then another. You can build your own system. You just have to get plugged into that community.
You know what? I have a friend. I don't know if I think I have told you this, but it's been years maybe, and you may have forgotten, but I have a friend who doesn't drive, doesn't live in a city where you can really take public transit. She's very involved with her church, and she literally has a Google Calendar, or like, I don't know if it's Google Calendar, but like a calendar with all of her like upcoming appointments for the month. And kind of all the older ladies at her church get on there and they pick like, okay, I'll take you to this appointment. I'll take you to that appointment. I'll do this. Because you know what? A lot of women are mom's age and older who are retired. they're looking for things to do. A lot of them are bored. I'm sorry to say it. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
They're empty
they
nesters.
might have grandkids that live far away. They might not have grandkids at all.
They might not have grandkids at all. But they're you know, they're looking for something to do. They want to help, and like a lot of people will say, volunteer when you get older. Volunteer. A lot of people don't know how. This is a way.
Yeah, if you're still able to drive, if someone is not able to drive, like this is a huge lifesaver, and you get to build that relationship with those car chats. And for all the blind folks and folks who can't drive, you know, we did an episode about reciprocity and how to pay it forward. And sometimes, you know, again, we said in that episode, and I've still seen it happen since then, sometimes people get a little funny when you try to give them like a little Uber gift card, because in this day and age, I wish I could just help them pay for gas, because gas is so expensive.
I know, right? Yeah.
But it just, people feel weird because they're like, oh, I'm not an Uber, like, don't worry. But I always try to emphasize, like, hey, you know what? I'm never going to be able to give you a ride. Like, I'm never going to be able to pick you up. But I can buy you a coffee or a cake pop or whatever you want from Starbucks.
Yes.
And, or I could, you know, sometimes I've given people like bags of coffee if they've given me lots of rides, or I'll bake them a cake, or just anything that you feel like would be a meaningful gesture to give forward as your way of saying, hey, I can't pick you up, but I can give you something good to eat.
Yep. And like you said, we do have a whole episode on that. It's worth listening to, we think, because, you know,
we give a lot of fun ideas.
We do. And I think this one was no different. I think this one was really fun, and hopefully it made you feel good if you're low vision or you have a family member that is, like, because we can talk about the bad. We definitely can. But sometimes gratitude is nice. Focusing on the good is nice. It's not all bad over here. And there are perks. There is a good side to many of these things.
Yeah, and often people haven't even bothered to think about it because they've never really had to.
Yeah. You wouldn't
we're here
realize.
to give it to you, and we're so excited to bring you a conference special.
Oh my gosh.
Super soon.
Oh, get ready. We can't wait.
It's going to be awesome.
Going to be great.
We will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.